katika ruling party. Hatukupewa masharti mengine. Sasa wakati tulichagua tulienda hivyo na tukasikia kiti cha pili kinaweza chukuliwa na opposition ama chama kingine. Na ndivyo tulifanya. Sasa kurudishwa tena na kuambiwa kwamba labda hatukuchagua vizuri, ni vyema kupata criteria, manake sisi ni watu wazima. Ya kwamba tunahitaji hiki na hiki, mkichagua msituchagulie fulani maana ana matatizo, sio kuchagua alafu tutarudishwa tena kuja kuchagua. Hata ukienda kutafuta mchumba, unaangalia kama ulikuwa taka mwembamba au ulikuwa taka mnene. Unakuwa ya kwamba huyu ndio ananitosha. Kama hivyo ni chia tulikuwa tunataka mwingine, tungekuja tueleze. Na kama watu wa Jubilee, subiri ndugu Sankoka, watu wa Jubilee kama mlienda mkaelezwa na wakubwa wenu, mngekuja kutuambia kwamba sisi tumesema hivi. Maana kuturudisha hapa ni kama kujaribu kutulazimisha. Hii ndio ilikuwa tunataka, ambao mngetuambia mbeleni, hatungeenda kwa njia ya huyo, tungechukua mapenzi yenu yala, maana nyinyi ndio ruling party. Lakini sasa kuja kuturudisha tena inaonekana ni kama inapeleka signals ambazo sio nzuri. Mimi nasema hata kama tutaenda njia gani, lakini for future reference ndio tusije tukawa na uhasama ndani yetu. Ni vyema ya kwamba tuweze kuelezwa fulani ndiye tunamtaka, tuchagulie huyo ndio tafanya kazi naye. Asante.
Thank you. We can have okay, let's have one. Welcome. Yes.
Thank you very much. Nyangu Boyo is my name. I'm a member of this committee. I'm at a loss. Got advisory from my party that I should not attend this session. But on a second thought, I have decided that I should come here and get to know the truth. Get to know the truth. Because we sat in this house, this committee room, sometimes last month, and we did elections that were conducted properly, and the results were pronounced before us here. And all the members who are here, who are there, did take part. We are yet to be called somewhere. We are yet to be advised that the election was unprovided or was not done properly, or this and that was the reason why the elections were not conducted in an orderly manner. Therefore, we are calling for a repeat of the elections. We are not hard-spoiled that we are going to be told, now you are going left, now you are going right. We are members of parliament, elected, properly elected. There's very little contention among many of us here on our elective role. So we don't want. When we participated in the last election, I had my best friend, Mr. Wadi. Then have also my acquaintance, Mr. Kete. I made an informed choice, and I will still do it. But first, I only want to participate if we are going for elections, after I have been told exactly what went wrong with the last election we held, and why we should have a repeat election. And I want to say, we are going to be very sorry. We are not going to be. We are not going to be people waiting to receive instructions from elsewhere. This is Parliament. We are elected leaders, and we must be allowed to exercise our democratic rights. We are people. We are leading outside there. What are we going to tell them? That we were given money to come here and change our mind? I understand part of the reason is that some members here were advised to say, wait, some members here were saying, you are out of order, you are a heckler. He's not an elected member, you're wasting my time.
Just come non-heckler, you are not heckler. My friend. You have always been on the road.
Honorable members, I go to bring the motion again to you. Honorable members, order that pursuant to the provision 2, standing order 193, this committee passes a vote of no confidence in the chairperson and vice chairperson. I'm looking the one to support. We are going now to vote. The voting is the only solution we can get here, because everybody has his own expression. So we want to go no or yes for the chair and vice chair. So let me just need to be guided how we are going to vote.
Excuse me, Chair. You have been guided or will decide?
There's a procedure.
Honorable member, there is a procedure, and we have to follow all the procedures. It will be unfair with us to make decision, then we get to not follow the right procedure. Let's follow the right procedure. So we need to know the one who supports. If you support, raise your hand.
Secret ballot.
That is law.
Secret ballot.
Stop the clerk from advising, please.
Secret ballot.
No, we'll vote according to the standing orders, not according to what you are being advised down there.
Professional heckler.
Honorable members, that's why I say we need to follow the right procedure. That's why you see me consulting and reading. Yes. Thank you, honorable members. I would like to take this opportunity to read Standing Order 196, all of it, for you to understand. Standing Order 196.1, except as and to the extent to which the chairperson may otherwise direct for the purpose of facilitating full consideration and discussing of matter referred to a committee. The procedure in select committee shall be as nearly as possible the same as that in committee of the whole house. We go to any question arising in a select committee shall be decided by vote, and the resolution on any such vote shall constitute the decision of the select committee on that question. Are we together there? 3. The minutes of a select committee shall be kept in the same form as the votes and the proceedings of a committee of the whole house, and in such other form as may be prescribed in the committee manual. We go 4. Where a vote on a question is not unanimous, the names of the members voting for and against the question and those abstaining from voting respectively shall be recorded in the minutes. We go number 5. Except as the speaker may otherwise direct, a committee may sit notwithstanding the adjournment of the house. Honorable members, the question here is where a vote on a question is not unanimous. Unanimous comes when?
After you vote. After voting is when you decide whether it is unanimous or not.
Chairman Ketel, can we hear from another person, not from you? Because you are interested party.
Yes, and you was the chair. Yes.
After voting.
That's why having a legal officer here. Where is the legal officer?
They are there. Okay.
You advise.
Those are the ones
They have the
that
staff.
Let them advise.
So I put the question. May the many of these say aye.
Aye.
May the post again say nay.
Nay.
The nays have it.
The nays have
The nays have it.
it. The nays, obvious.
We have to proceed to voting now.
Bring the ballot.
And the second ballot. And the second ballot.
Bring the
So
ballot.
we vote in parliament. Unfortunately,
Let's go to the law.
it becomes infamous. When you are
Hiyo utafanya kwako. Hiyo utafanya kwako.
Chair.
Honorable members,
No, don't worry. No, we are trying to help you. We are deciding how to manage you.
You are not the chair.
okay, honorable members, I think I have to consult. Because I have to make sure that we are fair enough for our Kenyan citizens and on the benefit of the Minister of Labour and all employees in this country.
Correct.
The reason why I'm consulting, we need to understand how we are voting. And the voting is very important. So
Secret ballot.
we can do that secret ballot.
Correct.
Please don't console Honorable Keter. Because he's the one that is influencing you. You cannot be intimidated. Be the chair.
I now request Honorable
Sango,
Ketel,
you
can
move
you
the
go
motion.
sit there and let Sogong to come here?
Sangok to come where?
Yeah. let him
No,
come here.
Sangok should not come. No.
Honorable members,
No,
I'm
don't
the
take
chairman
Sangok there.
and I have to be very neutral for this. Yes.
Sangok is not neutral.
Yes.
He's a mover.
I'm the
He will
chairman. Even
interfere.
if he sits here, I'm a chairman.
He will
You
interfere
think when
with
the chairman sits here, I can influence me? I can only consult this side, technical side, this side.
Akae mbali. That's better.
Honorable members, order. This is a committee meeting, and I will extend to call Honorable Sosin to read me article. This name is very Sosion. I would like you to read me starting order 1964.
I definitely would need
Yes.
to
Yeah.
It is article
1964.
1964. Proceed.
Okay. Where a vote on a question is not anonymous, the names of the members voting for and against the question and those abstaining from the voting, respectively, shall be recorded in the minutes. Except as a speaker may otherwise direct, a committee may not sit notwithstanding the adjournment of the House.
Yes. So it cannot be secret ballot. It's not secret ballot. It is not secret. No, it's voting is secret. This is pure English. Can you read again?
Where a vote on a question is not anonymous, the names of the members voting for and against the question and those abstaining from voting, respectively, shall be recorded in the minutes.
Must be recorded.
Except as the speaker may otherwise direct, a committee may sit notwithstanding the adjournment of the House.
Except. So give us secret voting and we clear with this business. So it's not closed. It does not dictate.
Chair.
Yeah.
It is by the standing order. It is very clear. So we will go by the standing order. And the Speaker of the National Assembly is not here to
No,
read the article.
Sangok should not intimidate the chair. The chair, give us secret ballot.
I know the secretary of the party.
Except.
The secretary have always been part of the class.
I think, Chair,
The clerks have always been part of
order, members. I think we are moving well, and we are expecting you to give us papers to vote in the secret ballot.
Yes.
So don't
is law.
get too many other opinions, because we really want to finish
don't
this business.
circumvent.
Thank you, Chair.
Voting for the sake of respect of this committee.
Which
Give
law,
us the
apart
ballot
from
paper.
the one that Honorable Jaguar have read, which other law? That is the law that
don't-
the names voting for
I know the clerks
and
have
against
always-
are registered.
Order, members.
Don't intimidate
Can
this
somebody
committee.
give me a standing order?
You brought
with
us
the
the
secret
motion.
ballot?
Leave us to deal with
Secret
it.
ballot.
Secret ballot.
Can we have a standing order?
That is in the constitution and all over. There is nowhere you vote.
If we voted in the last meeting through secret ballot, nothing stops us from voting.
That's also the normal situation.
That's the law.
Because they are
This is
part
not
of it.
NGO council.
No, you are a professional director now.
It is not the tradition. It is the and we go for secret balloting and we go.
Secret ballot.
If you win, we go.
Yeah, if you win, but let's go for
Secret balloting, you win, we go.
Secret ballot.
All right, that's the case at Parliament. What you're hearing now is the Parliamentary Committee on Environment passing a vote of no confidence against the Vice Chair, Kangongo Bowen. He has been replaced by Ijara MP Sophia Abdi. However, of course, the ousted Vice Chair says the grounds on which he is being removed are flimsy. However, he will continue to play his role in the committee. Of course, in other news, Alfred Kater, the Nandi Hills MP, has also been removed as the Labour Committee Chair. We'll be following those developments throughout the day. But let's cross over now to Kenyatta National Hospital, where the mortuary staff there are protesting against allegations leveled against them of sexual assault and harassment on patients. Let's listen into what they're saying.
Well, thank you so much. We're here at the Kenya National Hospital where workers, actually staff here at the KNH, called for a press conference of which they are denying claims of that their staff were involved in sexual assault or allegations. And in fact, we had the said mortuary attendants also saying that, coming out clean and saying they were not involved in any incident. They further say that no one out of those who are alleging that they have been sexually assaulted has filed any claim or any report with the police. And right now I'm joined by the chairman of the Kenyatta National Staff Workers Union. Chairman, just introduce yourself, please.
My name is Pius Cheboy. I am the chairman of the KNH Union Committee.
Well, Mr. Cheboy, just tell us about your presser today. What are you saying?
We have come out strongly to demystify the reports which have been circulating on the social media that our staff have been, particularly our mortuary personnel, who were on duty on specific nights, have been involved in issues to do with rape for our patients.
And then, of course, you also raised issues concerning the management itself. You said that there are patients who are still sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, well, if you can confirm to us that you may realize that Kenyatta National Hospital is a referral hospital. Now, because our county hospitals are not operating the way it was statuted in our legislation of the counties, all patients have been turned to Kenyatta National Hospital. We are no longer now offering referral services, but we have been turned into a district hospital. Yes.
And then, so these are the issues that were brought up. You deny all allegations, and you say that no one has filed a report to the police about the sexual assaults.
Yes, the police were very, very clear last night, and they made it very clear that none of our of our patients or none of our any member of the public has recorded a statement with the police to confirm that he or she was raped on a specific day. So we are saying these are rumors and these are politics which we don't entertain as members of staff.
And what about the security situation? Are you satisfied with the security personnel at the Kenyatta National Hospital as a general?
I can assure you that the security, we have 24 hours CCTV surveillance in the hospital, and the women MPs came on Saturday and confirmed that our CCTV cameras are working very well. Yes, and they never ascertained any kind of incident which involved a rape case in our CCTV cameras. So we are saying these are which are being played by specific people to taint the name of our institution.
Thank you so much. That is the chairman of the Kenya National Hospital Workers Union, and they are just dismissing the claims of sexual assault against patients, especially by mortuary attendants. And right now, I have to leave you because we have to go to another section where we are being told that there's almost going to be a confrontation between staffers here at the KNH and a group of women representatives, especially from the human rights watch groups and also women welfare organizations who are filing a petition, and they are marching all the way from the Ministry of Health to this particular place. But the staff here at KNH say they will not allow them to get into the hospital. So we have to rush and see what goes on there. Back to you.
All right, Seth Olale there at KNH speaking to the committee chair of union staff at KNH, of course, coming against those allegations of sexual assault and sexual harassment leveled against mortuary staff at KNH. We'll be following that. And we know that several human rights groups have been marching to the Ministry of Health and then now to the Kenyatta National Hospital, of course, to protest the current state of health here in Kenya. This, of course, being spearheaded by the allegations leveled against the Regional Referral Hospital, KNH. Mortuary staff had been accused of sexually harassing female patients there. But so far, at least what we've heard from the committee chair from KNH, they have not heard of any reports filed with the police, no official reports being made by affected patients. The Ministry of Health has said they will be investigating the allegations. We expected a report yesterday from the Ministry of Health in terms of their findings. What you're seeing, at least to the left of your screen, live footage of the human rights groups who made their way now to KNH, and they're calling for a cleanup of public health facilities across the country. They are also taking a petition to the Cabinet Secretary for Health to respond to many of their concerns that they say don't just touch KNH, but also touch on various health facilities across the country, and they want that addressed immediately. Of course, security coming up as a huge issue, a huge security breach, at least in terms of the allegations that came from patients, many of them mothers who had just given birth, many of them who had gone through cesarean section and were heading down to the first floor where the incubation for their newborns was to breastfeed. Many of them caught up by the mortuary staff around 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning and unable to run to safety. So many questions as to what happened in terms of security to ensure that patients were indeed safe. What you're seeing now on your screens, live footage from Kenyatta National Hospital, where human rights groups have gathered. They were making their way from the Ministry of Health. They wanted to have audience with the Cabinet Secretary for Health to give a petition. In that petition, the biggest issue for them was a cleanup of public health facilities, proper security measures, a complete overhaul of the healthcare system here in Kenya, and as well an audit of employees to know who, in fact, they are dealing with. So you're having a clash, if you will, of two groups, the KNH staff defending their position at the Regional Referral Hospital, and on the other side, human rights groups calling for justice to be served, at least for the patients who have been affected in these scathing allegations against KNH, and of course a complete overhaul of the health system here in Kenya. Let's just listen into the happenings there at KNH.
idleness. Hamuna kazi. Hamuna kazi mmekuja kukusumbua. Hamuna kazi, idleness. Wasaliti nyinyi. Endeni huko.
Who have been marching throughout the city streets with the intention of presenting a petition to the management of the Kenyatta National Hospital over the rape allegations that have been awash concerning this institution. We have been marching with them from the Freedom Corner in Uhuru Park to the Ministry of Health, and finally here at the Kenyatta National Hospital. There have been attempts by this group to gain access into the compound hosting this institution, but those efforts have been thwarted by security officers who locked the gates as soon as they saw this group of protesters, mainly women, some of them carrying placards, many of them carrying placards and wearing t-shirts that actually denouncing what they say is the rape culture that has been ongoing here at the KNH for years now. What you can see right now, Victoria, is as we speak right now, there is a standoff between the demonstrators on one side of the gate outside the compound and the staff of the Kenyatta National Hospital inside the compound. Both groups, of course, are trying to make their voices heard. The demonstrators, of course, speaking out against what they claim are these rape allegations and assault of patients and mistreatment of patients and generally poor handling of those who seek services here at the Kenyatta National Hospital. On the other side of the gate, inside the gate, of course, are members of staff who are rebuking and saying that these allegations as presented here by the human rights activists are not true. They say that they do not rape patients, that they give the best health care they can under the circumstances. So we're waiting to see what will happen, because this group of protesters that has been marching through the streets is pretty insistent in delivering that memorandum, that petition to the hospital's management. We were able to speak to the Director of Communications here at the Kenyatta National Hospital, who told us that they will not allow these protesters inside, but instead they will have an official come and take that petition off their hands and deliver it to the management of the hospital. So we are waiting to see how this scenario plays out. But despite this confrontation, the bottom line, of course, remains the very weighty issue of patient care, patient safety at the Kenyatta National Hospital and indeed other health facilities across the country. Victoria?
And Brenda Wanga now, of course, speaking to us over the phone on the situation there at KNH. But Brenda, you mentioned, of course, they're protesting against what they're calling this rape culture, silent rape culture at KNH. But beyond that, what more are they asking for in that petition? Are they looking for an overhaul of health services across the country, security? What more do they want?
Victoria, I think over and above the fact that they are demanding that this, what they call the rape culture here at KNH stop, they're also demanding that the safety that they can, what they're asking for also is the fact that they want the patients to come here, especially mothers who have come here to deliver or seeking maternity services, should be accorded assurance that they will be safe, that they will not suffer at the hands of either hospital staff or strangers who have been known to make their way into the hospital. They're also demanding that the mothers and their newborn babies are placed in on the same floor. That has not been a situation in the past, to find mothers moving from one floor to another floor to access their babies and feed them. They want this overhaul. They want this amongst other things, Victoria. So let's just listen into what these protesters and their leaders are saying at this moment.
All right, live pictures from Kenyatta National Hospital. Two opposing groups inside KNH are staff who are demonstrating against allegations of sexual harassment and sexual assault from patients. We are yet to hear, of course, concrete allegations made by patients in terms of filings at the police. And then, of course, on the other side of the main gate are human rights groups who are protesting the current state of health here in Kenya and, of course, the allegations at KNH. Let's listen into what is being said by the human rights groups.
And the following are our demands. We demand an apology from the management of the hospital and the CEO resigns. As thorough and proper investigations must be conducted. Victims must get justice and the criminals must be brought to book. Infants are moved closer to their mothers. Space should be created for that. Security, safety. More security officers should be deployed to the facility and placed in the strategic places. The corridors should have enough light and security cameras should be installed. More funds should be set aside for health facilities in the country to reduce congestion and to enable the
All right, apologies for that. We'll get the signals back up. But keeping on with this conversation, joining me in studio right now is Pastor John Wesley Ngu, a governance analyst. And Mr. Ngu, as you watch this happening, playing out on live television, the two opposing groups, and this stemming from the allegations leveled against KNH of sexual harassment, sexual assault on patients, is this an unearthing of issues, structural issues at KNH, or are these isolated cases that have been blown out of proportion because of social media, for instance?
Well, I would say that is very unfortunate. One, if there is sexual assault for, new mothers, it would be very unfortunate. And I would understand the anger that is coming out from people. And definitely, again, if it is true, I'm talking about if it is true, right, then definitely there seems to be a reason why the anger would be there. But beyond that, I think the management of KNH could have invited themselves for this. Because first, the separation of the mothers from their babies, whom they are going to see, especially the incubated babies, and they are going through dark corridors. Definitely, some of these people who are agitating could be having that other extra agenda of saying, I think this is the prime moment. We have been talking about this for too long. We have made our suggestions in the suggestion boxes. Nobody has listened to us. Now we got an opportunity. And maybe it's me who will be there tomorrow. And of course, if they have in any way or the other suffered, then that would be a case to reckon with. The whole thing about there being no CCTV, in the corridors, such that even if these allegations are made, you cannot prove whether they are true or not. But on the other hand, it is very unfortunate that we have not had any credible accusation that has come from any mother. It's only social media that we have had somebody saying, I went, and this is what I had, and this is what I was told. But the people who are telling them, for one reason or the other, they are not speaking out. And so I would think that whatever we are seeing now could be a frustration of many other things, not this. They are just getting a window of opportunity to vent. Like the way somebody just comes and tells you something, and then you say, wow, what an opportunity for me now. Let me vent out and say what I've always wanted to say about this. And this again comes to management of our institutions, the management of the health sector, because you are hearing that we are almost getting away from the main issue why we came here, but we are now talking about the Kenya National Hospital is being mismanaged. We need the resignation of the CEO. They have gone to the cabinet secretary, and they are saying, there are many other, issues that have to be dealt with. And I think if we are not careful, we may end up having now this turning out to be an issue to do with the health sector. Again, is the health sector being managed the way it should be managed? Right. Should it, the whole thing about devolvement of the health sector from the national level to the county level, a bit of the staff are not comfortable with that. And so the staff could also be generating, some of the staff, especially the doctors, they may not be in this, but they could actually agitating and say, now that we did our thing for our salaries, but we still are not comfortable about the way this whole thing is being run. So why don't we get people to picket and raise this matter up?
You raised a very important issue in terms of some of the allegations being made not being officially lodged with the police. For instance, we heard from the KNH CEO saying they have not received any complaints from patients. But on the other side of that argument, you have people saying that as a sexual harassment or sexual assault victim, many don't come forward for being victimized or being castigated or not believed. Were still for a lot of what has happened to them. So what do you make of that? Because that could be the reason as to why several women have not come out officially, not knowing what kind of backlash they would get.
I would say I'm a bit hesitant to say that they cannot talk. Mm-hmm. Sexual harassment and sexual assault is something that with this kind of, like you remember what happened in the US, many people have been harassed by presidents and by who. But when an opportunity comes as this kind of opportunity, I believe you don't just go to the press conference and say, I'm the one they are talking about. There are mechanisms where even the press, when you go to the press, I see the press trying to cover somebody's face, and then you say, yes, as they are saying this, I am a victim of that. And another one comes, I'm a victim of that. You can actually be able to go to report and say, I was harassed, but I want my name not to be, and it can be investigated. But when it is that you have talked to somebody else, and that somebody else is the one who has come up, and they have said it, a bit of that, now you can see the embodiment of the staff of KNH coming up saying, they are being told Melipo, and then they are saying Atuja Lipo. It's like, come up with evidence. Tell us who. What happened? And so I think we need to be careful, even as we start doing the whole thing about picketing, that sometimes we need to have credible issues that we are raising, because if we don't, then at the end of the day, just in case this matter was investigated and it is proved that nothing like that happened, we lose credibility, And I think we should be directing this not to KNH as of now, not to the ministry, but to the investigating agencies. Those are the ones who should be telling, we need credible information. And we have so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so you need to talk to, that we can be able to establish the truth about this. But now you're going to the accused person, and you're saying, A, B, C, D. Now, how do we get that? Of course, I'm hearing that it is not possible when the CEO is in office for you to do credible investigation. But by the time you are coming to say that this is happening, you should have gotten some base, of being able to make the allegation.
Right, and just to clarify, you're not insinuating that some of these women who've come forward, at least maybe on social media, but hidden their identities, they're not fabricating or making up any of these stories for political reasons?
Well, I did not want to bring politics here, but now that you have brought it, you never know. I would say you never know. And you see, when you leave the nation, Like, for instance, we have not had picketing for some time. And people are still, we have not still left the season of we are not happy with the government, we are not this. Now, you may not come directly to do that, but if you come and give an opportunity, you know, an opportunity is created. I've studied many places where there has been revolutions, and you realize a revolution is sparked by somebody being marked. And then you come and say, that person should not have been marked. And then you come 20 of you, and then you come and say, by the way, the marking was supported by the police. So the police must go. And then the police are employed by the government. So it is possible that we could have all those possible scenarios in the background. But as I've said, if that thing has happened, it is the most unfortunate thing, and something needs to be done.
Something definitely needs to be done. And the hope is, you know, KNH is able to engage this situation and these allegations properly, because right now it seems that it can get lost in the noise.
Yes,
you have one side of the KNH staff who are protesting against, and of course the human rights groups. But looking at KNH now and how they've handled this issue, the methods of engagement in terms of the people who are coming up against them, do you think this is wise? Because you have your staff who are equally trying to outshout the ones who've come to you know, call them out for these allegations against the hospital. But do you feel this is the wisest way to deal with it from the hospital standpoint? Because we expected backlash from the public. We expected this to happen.
Well, I think the hospital, in my understanding, when the members of parliament were there, they were allowed to go and investigate, and, you know, look around and see what was happening. The CEO addressed them. I would expect that these bodies, if they have what they are protesting about, maybe if they think that the hospital has hidden 1 or 2, 3 things, they should be able to make their presentations to the people involved. And I would expect the hospital also to open doors, not to everybody to go and bring mayhem. I mean, noise should not be there in the hospital in the first place. That's one thing I know. You don't allow people to come and picket and shout where there are patients. But I would expect that the leaders of these people would be allowed to present their case. And then they discuss. I know advocacy. I mean, I'm one person who has been involved in advocacy and training about advocacy. You make the pressure, you know, make the pressure in the streets and everything else, but then allow the people who are protesting to come with their position paper.
Which right now we're not seeing, because you have the staff who've created a buffer zone, if you will.
And that's why I'm saying now the hospital should be able to allow the few, not everybody, to rush into Kenyatta National Hospital. God forbid that. Because if people are aggravated and then they start throwing, I mean, it will be hurting now more of the patients whom they are trying to protect, you know. But I would expect that the hospital management would allow, you know, the people who are the leaders there to go and soberly present what they have to present, and maybe even address the press from there, but not allow this now pressure to build, and then we end up finding that there's destruction of property or human life in the process.
In your view, generally, what does this mean for the hospital? Because this is not the first time that allegations, well, not as serious as sexual harassment, have come up against KNH, but generally the state of health services, or lack thereof, at the, and it's the largest referral hospital in the region, but what does this mean for KNH now moving forward? Because it's not just management, there's also structural issues there.
Well, I would say that that's why I'm saying, and I started with this, Victoria, that there are other issues that are causing this to happen. And it's more of the management issues, the governance of the hospital, the structures, as you're saying, the systems, how they're addressing the issues. I've been a victim, you know, when we went there sometimes back to have a relative being treated, and the person was in critical condition, and we stayed for about 6 hours. I mean, 6 hours, 7 hours, and we are being taken slowly from here to here, and then, you know, the issues. And then I just wondered, who is managing this, you know? Why wouldn't we have a seamless kind of, you know, things that if somebody has come in a critical condition, you are taken from one point A to point B, to point C to point D. And you realize, of course, everything rises and falls with the leadership and the governance. And so when you see this, it is the underlying factors. And I'm just saying, it is not just this issue. This issue may not be the issue. It may be the issue that has given opportunity for people who are coming. Because again, the PR management about this event, I mean the public relations, just public relations management has not been very good. It's like everything now is being left to the CEO to handle. Now you suspect there is a problem here. Because the people who are in public relations should have come, not just make the announcement, but even take what is being done and responded. But now it's like the only person who we are seeing or hearing is a CEO. So you start noticing that, and you know the board, we have not had the board meeting to handle, you know, the crisis, or to me it's a crisis, but to them maybe it's not a crisis. So those are leadership issues that we are facing, not just in this institution, but in the institutions in our country today.
Absolutely, and we were expecting a report from at least the Ministry of Health in conjunction with KNH on some of the allegations made. That was supposed to be submitted yesterday. We have not heard from either of the bodies in terms of what they have found. And again, this whole looming story as to many of the allegations not being put up with the police or the hospital, making it very difficult when it comes to investigations, even from the police side. Let's cross back over to Kenyatta National Hospital to see what the human rights groups are demanding now. Let's listen in.
Anonymously, with protection, to come and share their grievances. We want it to be a public thing. We want real recommendations because we will come back. We want to come back and check if all the things we put on paper have been implemented. We don't want to be face washed. We don't want tweet words. And we don't want their PR. Yes. We don't want to see them talk. We want to see them work. Yes. We want to come back when there's some action. Yes. We don't want to see all these leaders trooping in here for catwalks. Just for what? PR. Don't want, we've had enough. It's been a long time coming. We've had so much of that. So today, brothers and sisters, I ask you, once again, we are watching all this together. And again, we will be back, won't we? Yes. We shall be back. Yes. We shall be back. Yes. We come in peace. Back again. Yes. Because this is our right.
All right, human rights groups there at KNH saying they will not relent, of course, until they have their grievances addressed. They said they do not want to hear any PR, in quotes, from the hospital. Let's head back there. I understand the signal has stabilized a bit to listen into what they have to say. Okay, unfortunately, technology is failing us today with the happenings at KNH. And again, Mr. Ngu, in terms of what these human rights activists are saying is we don't want PR. A lot of times when allegations have been brought up against KNH or any government body for that matter, they'll say we begin a commission of inquiry, we'll look into the allegations, but nothing concrete is really done in terms of response. And that has been the worry, and not of course on their part, but from the public as well, who have to interact with these services on a daily basis.
Yeah, you see, the way you manage, if you are serious about management, if a complaint is made, you receive it. And then, from your own viewpoint, you do some timelines and very key performance indicators on your part, that by tomorrow morning, like what you said, they said by this evening, right, we will do this, by tomorrow morning we will have done this, and then you keep your word. I mean, the part I've liked about them is I said, okay, we are not picketing here the whole day, we are gone, but we'll be back. And we don't want just to be addressed, we want action. Now that's where I'm saying, from the PR perspective, if they are the ones who had put that for themselves. You know, if you come and make a complaint, you also are obviously know that it may not be done immediately. But you expect somebody who is serious enough in management to tell you, okay, what you're demanding, we may not be able to give you in the next 2 hours, but in the next 6 hours, you're going to do this. Something smart. You just set your own objectives. Something that is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. And then you say, by next week, we will have done this. Like, for instance, if they came and said, it's a solid state of affairs, we apologize that there is no CCTV cameras, we are trying to see how we can be able to change the mothers to come closer to their babies. You know, I mean, you ease the tension. And then the people now expect that you're going to fulfill what you have discussed and you have promised what you are able to do. But if you just come and say, we never did it, it is, you know, we will investigate, we'll come back to you as of when we want to do, or you tell them we'll come back, you don't come back. Then what do you expect?
You mentioned earlier the whole issue of health services, of course, now being devolved to the counties, initially being in the hands of the national government. Has that helped? Because we've been seeing wrangles, especially when it comes to pay and remuneration for health workers, the doctor strike, nurses strike that took months on end to settle. But in your view, what would remedy this issue? Is it stemming also from management in terms of if it's in the counties or the national government? And there's been that debate on where do health services stand best to be delivered?
Well, I think it's the whole thing about the Agenda 4. You know, the whole issue about transition from the national to the county governments. Because I'll tell you, Victoria, I've been at the counties. I was in Masekela recently, before I came back to Nairobi. And it's such a blessing to have gone to the county, especially in the issue about drugs availability. Drugs are available to the village, you know, incidentally, because the county government must prove that they are bringing the health services closer to the people. They are bringing, you know, the staff. So on one hand, the Mwananchi, you know, the Wajiko, is getting benefited by this devolution. I think the whole issue is about the staff. Again, you'd understand that the devolvement of the staff brings problems because you don't expect that the counties have evolved to the point of, you know, growth and maturity that they are able to handle. And so you realize that if they are left on their own, some people in one county will be getting better services than the other people in the other county. So the staff have been saying, why don't we allow the staff factor to be handled at the national level so that we can be able to, number one, be able to come together as, you know, put pressure as a team. Because once we are divided and you're only picketing in your own country, they'll be able to say, well, let the officials at that county deal with the government in that county. And so I think that is where the issue has been. But as the devolvement of the health services has been a blessing, I can assure you, in many counties, the whole issue about the establishment of the level 5 hospitals, you know, around the country, getting machines and services closer to the people, getting people, like in my home county in Embu, you can get the services, even the screening and, you know, the issues about the initial treatment and, you know, of major diseases at the county level. Now, that is it. But the staffing element, I think there needs to be more discussions about that.
Okay. On that note, we're crossing into the 12 o'clock hour here on NTV Today. The conversation continues. Of course, I still at KNH as the human rights groups seek audience with KNH management. We'll be right back. We're taking a short break. All right, welcome. You're watching NTV Today. Of course, all eyes have been at Kenyatta National Hospital, where staff, of course, are defending themselves on the sexual harassment, sexual assault allegations leveled against them. And human rights groups have made their way there, seeking audience with the hospital management. We'll be checking back in with Seth Olale and Brenda Wanga, who've been keeping tabs on the happenings there. But for now, to another story that's been making headlines for the last couple of days, at least here in Nairobi. The police have linked the high number of hawkers and street families to the increased cases of muggings in the country's capital of Nairobi. Now, the law enforcers argue that by allowing hawking on some streets of Nairobi and the swelling numbers of street children has created a conducive environment for criminals. The police are not ruling out using firearms to deal with these gangs they believe are behind the current crisis in the CBD. And Oxycoria has that story.
This morning, we encountered what many of the Nairobi residents have been enduring in the last few months in Nairobi's central business district. This man here is targeting public service vehicles. With our cameras rolling, we film him as he attempts to rob passengers their items. After observing for a while, we learn that he is not acting alone. It's a well-organized network led by this man wearing a red cape. Apart from attempting to steal luggage, they also target innocent phone users, mostly in public service vehicles, where they snatch valuables from them at the slightest of opportunity. This is in spite of a police patrol barely 5 meters from where they operate in the CBD. Upon noticing our presence, they disappear into the crowd. This incident, captured on camera, being one of the many most unnoticed and undocumented that have turned the capital's central business district to be one of the most notorious crime zones in the region. Youth gangs numbering from 8 to 20 have abandoned their neighborhoods and are now targeting innocent pedestrians not only in downtown but also uptown streets such as Moi Avenue, Tom Mboya and Kimathi streets. The groups commonly target unsuspecting people frequenting ATM machines, bank halls and mobile money outlets. The gangs also disguise themselves as revelers or followers of politicians. 20-year-old Ephantas Waweru is among those who have fallen prey to the youth gangs, going by different names such as the 40 Brothers. Waweru has been mugged twice in 14 days.
Haya ni mambo ambayo yanafanyika kwa kimombo vile tunasema within the blink of an eye. Huwezi mjua ni nani. Unaona tu mtu amekimbia kule, wananchi wako pale wanakuangalia, wakisononekana wewe kwa ishara, lakini hawezi kusaidia lolote. Ukiwika mwizi, hakuna ambaye atamkimbiza. Wanasema, chunga labda aweza kuwa na wahuni wenzake kule.
Caroline Karimi, an employee at Nation Media Group, also came under attack on Sunday.
Within 2 minutes, my chain is down. So when I looked, he had already run away. So he was just standing somewhere, just observing what I will do because he had not gone with the chain. So when I looked around, I found my chain on the ground, picked it, remembered I have a watch, so I removed the watch and put it in my bag. Then he followed me. That's the most scaring thing.
Apart from Ephantas and Caroline, Brian Mongela, who operates...
All right, we had to interrupt that story. There is a press conference going on right now at Parliament with Majority Leader Aden Duale speaking on the revision of positions at parliamentary committees by Jubilee MPs. Let's listen in.
This morning we had a process in accordance with in accordance with the Standing Order 193, where committee members in a resolution can remove their chair or vice chair. What brought that intention for the Jubilee members to remove the chairs and the vice chairs? In 2015, as political leaders from different political party formations, TNA, URP, UDF, BAS, name them, 14 of them, we collapsed them into one unifying party called Jubilee. And the essence of us forming Jubilee was to create a party like the Democratic Party of the US, like the Republican, like the Labour and the Conservative, the Chinese Communist Party, and the ANC of South Africa, where each and every Kenyan, regardless of where he comes from, his ethnic background, his region, his age, color, will find a place to be. And he'll be treated like a Kenyan. We had the choice, like our colleagues, to form regional tribal formation. And that's why today, in every county of the 47 counties, 44 counties of the 47 counties, we have either a member of parliament or a senator or a woman rep. So we have achieved our objective as leaders, led by none other than the President of the Republic of Kenya and his deputy, who are our party leaders. So the route we took in 2015 will not be, and we will not allow any of our members to disfranchise our rank and file members in Jubilee. In government, we will have the principle of equity. In parliamentary leadership, we have the principle of equity. Today, Aden Duale, a member of the pastoral community, is serving as a leader of majority for the second time. My deputy is Jimmy Angwenyi from Kisii. Our majority whip is from Western. You just need to look at us and see the representation of our party in the House and compare it with our colleagues, even in last parliament. Second and important thing, we want to say it here very categorically. When we were deciding on the men and women who should take the position of chairs and vice chairs, it was not based on qualification. Because of the principle of equity, the chairs and the vice chairs we have are not, even me as the leader of majority and the majority whip, we are not more educated than our colleagues. We are not better than them in any formation. But once you come to the House of Jubilee, the principle of equity and inclusivity is the principle that must be enshrined. And that is the principle the president and the deputy want to lead this party in the future. So we set as a leadership, and we proposed that each county where we have members of parliament will produce at least one chair and one vice chair or two vice chairs, with the exception maybe of Kiambu County, which had even many MPs, or even in Kiambu County we only have 2 chairs, because Kiambu County is the only county that has 13 members of parliament in this house. So in Nandi County, where Alfred Keter, Honorable Alfred Keter comes from, we have his counterpart, the member for Tindred, Honorable Meli, as the chair of education. And the Honorable Serem of Aldai as the vice chair in trade. In Uasingishu, where Honorable Tiren comes from, the 2 slots for that has been taken over by Honorable Boss Sholei as the chair of implementation and Honorable Mishra of Keses constituency as the vice chair in health committee. The same for Nairobi. Nairobi got a chair and a vice chair, a chair to Honorable Commander in the Committee of Cohesion, and Honorable Wahenya, I think in ICT, or Finance Committee, one of them. So it's a party that thinks about inclusivity. And we will not allow, and this goes to Honorable Alfred Keter, we will not allow the shenanigans of last parliament. We will maintain discipline, we will maintain cohesiveness, we will maintain inclusivity in everything that our party does under the able leadership of Uhuru Kenyatta. And there is nothing. People talk about Kenya, for instance. Kenya, if you read the Kenyan constitution, Kenya is a parliamentary democracy. Kenya is a presidential system of government. What do those two statements tell you? It tells you that parties are very important in the running of this country. And I want to tell the country, there was a shutdown in the US Senate 3 nights ago. The shutdown was caused because for that legislation, that budget legislation to be approved in the House of Senate, in the Congress, the Republicans needed 10 extra votes from the Democrats. And the Democrats denied them. And that's why the US government, a superpower, was shut down. The government was shut down from Friday till last night, around 7 p.m. Tells you how parties are very strong. Senior congressional leaders like McCain, who has served in that house for more than 30, 40 years as a senator, we cannot and will not vote outside his party lines. We have 216 members of parliament in the National Assembly. And out of that, we have 175 from the Jubilee Party. So there's nothing unusual Jubilee Party has done. It's very unfortunate for some people that our party leader happens to be the president. Our party leader happens to be the president, and his address in this town is State House. So if your party leader has multiple addresses, that is not Jubilee. We have only one address. If you want to do a parliamentary group meeting, we go to the address of our party leader, who happens to be the president. So it's State House. So if you have a problem with the State House, we will go there not once, not twice. We will be going there every now and then. So we told our members that out of the 26 plus committees that Jubilee chair, we only had a problem with 4. And today I'm happy to report that the majority of those members have agreed with our party position. Honorable Bowen of Marakwet East, he listened to us in the morning and he has stepped down, so there was no vote taken in the Environment Committee. Honorable Gakuya, this morning, kupitia Roho ya Mtakatifu, he came to my office and he accepted to step down because he realized the tide of Jubilee is too heavy. He can't swim against that tide. So there was no election, there was no vote taken. He stepped down. Honorable Tiran, of course, like Honorable Keter, got the humiliating votes, 13-1. 13 members voted against him, and he only got his vote. Honorable Keter, and I told Keter 2 days ago, you can run, you can make noise, but the die is cast. Tuesday is your D-Day. For those of us who are Muslims, the only D-Day we have is the Day of Judgment. So his Day of Judgment was today. And he assembled members of parliament with trade union backgrounds. And I want to tell Honorable Sosion and the other trade unions, and Kupet and others, that the ball game in running the affairs of parliament is different from the way you run trade unionists out there. The way you challenge Teacher Service Commission, the Ministry of Education, and the strike is not how business is transacted in a pure presidential system like ours. So Honorable Kater, after 1-2 hours, saying the Constitution. When you say the Constitution, you need to provide the relevant articles of the Constitution. And I heard him say, talking about 96. 96, for his information, is the article that creates the Senate. It's not even the National Assembly. I watched him on TV, live. So we want to thank, and as a coalition, we will talk to those who want to talk to us, the other members. We will consult with our party leader. This is how a presidential parliamentary system works. In the US, in France, in any other democracy. Party whips, that's why we have party whips. The role of a party whip is to whip and instill discipline. So there is nothing the Jubilee Party has done. We have the numbers. And for your information, you don't need to be a chair or a vice chair to do your oversight role. You know, I had Alfred Keter and his team saying, oh, they are there. In fact, if there are people who want to avert what is going on in NSSF and NHIF, is the many trade unionists, despite having a conflict of interest, to be members of labor and social welfare. And I'm going to write to the speaker that when a matter that concerns this trade unionist, Honorable Sosion, Honorable Milembe, Catherine, they must, as per the standing order, they must excuse themselves and they should not take part in that deliberation and they cannot vote. That's per the standing orders. So good people, we have brought back sanity to Jubilee. We have brought back party discipline to Jubilee. We have brought back how a presidential system of parliamentary business is run. And I want to thank the 4 committee members from our party for listening, for believing in what we stand for as Jubilee, and for making sure that the resolution as adopted by our party parliamentary group meeting, chaired by our president and a party leader, has been actualized today. We will wait for the date when the liaison committee will invite our members and set the date for election. So for those doubting Thomases, parliamentary parties in a presidential system is anchored in Article 108 of the Constitution, where it recognizes that there will be the leader of majority and there will be the leader of minority. So we are happy, myself, my whip, and I'm sure you people are also happy that the standing orders have been followed, that you can run. You can run, and you can go to many television stations and FM stations. But when the party, through its leader, decide to fulfill its mandate, and for Alfred Keter, the President of the Republic of Kenya and the party leader of Jubilee has no opinion. Where he chairs, a resolution is reached. So the parliamentary group meeting chaired by the President always comes out with a resolution. The President does not give an opinion. Those who give opinions are those who run other parties, not us. Kayemba.
All right, Parliamentary National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale speaking to the press. This is after several parliamentary committees made changes to their leadership structures. We also heard that Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter stepped down as the chair for the Labour Committee. Also, the vice chair of the Environment Committee also stepping down after a vote of no confidence was moved by members of those 2 committees. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Of course, this was the day that what we called rebel MPs in Jubilee would know their fate in the parliamentary committees. Aden Duale basically saying those who sought to undermine the rank and file of Jubilee would be dealt dealt with, and of course, this being that act playing out before our eyes. Now, let's head over to KNH, where Seth Olale is standing by. Still, the human rights groups agitating for audience with the management there. But Seth is actually inside the hospital grounds. He was speaking to the KNH Union Committee chair about what's been happening there. What more do we know at this hour, Seth, that you can tell us?
Thank you so much, Vicky. Actually, what is happening right now is another meeting that has been called by officials or leaders of the Kenyatta National Hospital Workers Union, who are now addressing other staff. Remember that this is just in regard to what they're denying claims of sexual assault that is being alleged against them. We also had representatives of the mortuary wing who were the main highlights being accused of rape. And this is just a meeting that started like 2 hours ago, and there was a confrontation here at the gate of the main hospital after the group being led by human rights groups and also women welfare organizations attempted to get access of the hospital, but the staff here were keen to ensure that that will not happen, and luckily the gate was closed because it was seemingly going to be a very violent confrontation because the workers here had vowed to take the human rights groups head on should they access the facility. But what's interesting, or what's major concern here, Vicky, is that what happens to the services here, because the people you are seeing here, these are the staff of the hospital. So what's happening inside the hospital? Obviously, operations have been paralyzed, and that is a very major concern. And maybe we just have one of the people, or rather people who've come to access services here. Kwa majina yenu mnaitwa nani? Mmekuja hapa kupata matibabu?
Ndio.
Hebu tueleze tu kufikia sasa mumehudumiwa?
Mtu wetu alikuwa analala kwa hospitali. Kwa kitanda.
Lakini bado mnasubiri?
Ndio.
Is this one of the people who've come here to at least get medical services, but that will have to wait a little bit longer because we have series of meetings by workers and their leaders. That is the Kenyatta National Hospital Workers Union, who are still discussing these issues of allegations against them, Vicky.
All right, thanks for that update, Seth. And of course, we'll see how this plays out, not just today, but in the course of this week. This is certainly not dying down anytime soon. A correction, Alfred Keter, the Nandi Hills MP, who was the Labour Committee chair, was forcefully removed by members of that committee. He did not step down. Apologies for that miscommunication. Continuing on with our conversation, still with me in studio is John Wesley Ngu, a governance analyst. And we had run a story earlier talking about the issue of insecurity here in Nairobi. We have security forces blaming it on various factors, from hawkers to boda bodas to street families. But this points to a deeper issue, more of governance that we have kind of seen a lack of when it comes to managing the affairs of Nairobi County and Nairobi City as the capital of Kenya. But Mr. Ngu, let me just engage you on that in terms of the recent cases we've seen of insecurity in the CBD. Is this playing out because of isolated cases that we're just seeing now and they've been blown out of proportion maybe on social media, or is this a systemic issue when it comes to dealing with affairs here in Nairobi?
What I think is very difficult, I may not have the facts in my fingertips because I've not done this. Of course, in this era of social media, you would expect that a very small thing would be blown. It can be blown. I'm not saying this one is being blown. It can be blown. But because, of course, muggings have been there in the city. But in this particular case, I think it's not just a matter of blowing up. There are things that are happening because it has been reported again and again, and especially when it is a gang, you know, a gang of 10 or so, just zeroing in on one, like what we are seeing here, you know, organized things. And I would want to say, I think there are two other factors that are not being mentioned that I think are very critical. And the first one is the issue about the lack of surveillance. And especially, we have these wonderful gadgets called the CCTV cameras. I really wonder whether we manage them the way they should be managed. Because you'd expect that if in a building, let's just say it's in a building, Nation TV center, you'd expect that if somebody is seen on CCTV, there's somebody somewhere who is watching all those movements. The equipment is not left on its own, such that you are able to call to attention, there's a guy in second floor that needs to be checked.
Right.
Now, I really wonder whether our CCTV cameras in this city work like that. Because you hear that we are coming the next day or the following day or 2 days after, or when a matter is reported, is when we are going back to the CCTV cameras. Is there a central room where we have competent officers who are noticing what is happening in the streets and alerting the security forces to be able to attend to that? I don't think there is.
Right.
I don't think there is. But on the other one is the macro level issue about employment, and employment of our young people. Again, you'll be surprised that when in Nairobi City, for instance, you call for a picketing meeting, you get 1 million people just at a go. That means we are actually idle people in the city. We are not doing something very serious. We are just looking for something to be done. And I think those are issues that need to be addressed as we handle this matter. But coming to what you're asking, yes, governance issues have a problem. I mean, they are contributing so much to this. The first thing is populism, where you promise people, you vote for me, then I will do this for you. And one of the things that I realized our governor may have promised is that the hawkers would be given a free hand to be able to do what they want to do because they are the major voters. There's a school of thought that the middle level of guys just tweet and do other things, but they don't actually go voting. So the actual guys who go voting are these hawkers and people out there. And so to please them, you allow them to do that. Because it's not that they cannot be removed. They can't be removed from the streets. But you allow them. But then when you allow them, when they get overcrowded, in the first place, they don't get even those buyers. And then you overcrowd the streets. How do you manage the security at that particular point? So I think we have to get to a point of now not just doing politics, but actually managing the city.
Right.
And one of the things that we have to do is we have to clear the streets. And when we are clearing the streets, let's have designated places. And we had started doing that. I don't know why we are getting back to that. And the level of crimes like this had gone down. But when you have crowded streets, without, there are more people, juggling around and everything, you give room for such kind of things to happen. And of course, it's very unfortunate that we are seeing the element of the deputy governor and the governor, So if you see it at the top there, then how much is happening in the fire and ranks of the other officials? Are we waiting for one person to give directions, or are we actually saying we have a strategic plan for the city and we are doing ABCD even for the hawkers? And security cannot be managed in crowds like that. And I think that's a basic thing that needs to be handled on issues to do with what are we doing concerning clearing the streets and even these hawkers in the first place. And I'm not against the hawkers selling, by the way. But they also overcrowd the streets to the point that if I want to buy a shirt in a particular place in the streets because of these hawkers and because of the overcrowding, I will not do that. So I will withdraw to a mall outside the city center. So even the traders, the people who we have given room to do business in town, they are being affected.
Adversely affected,
Yes.
absolutely. And you mentioned, of course, now with the wrangles that played out in the resignation of the Deputy Governor of Nairobi, and many asking, what does this mean moving forward in terms of governance of Nairobi? And then the debate arises in terms of the current governance structure that we have for Nairobi County. It is the administrative, the financial capital of Kenya. And many asking, is there need to restructure it? As it stands, does it work? Do we need maybe another metropolitan body to help with the management of Nairobi as the capital? Because it is a very unique setup and structure in terms of being a city and a county as well.
You are right. Why you have heard, and it is true, I believe it is true, why you have heard that State House is interested. If from one county you're getting 60% of your GDP being generated, you would be crazy not to be involved. You would be crazy not, because you are generating 60% of what is coming to the economy. And therefore, you find now the heart of State House is seen looming. And when you hear now that the governor is feeling uncomfortable that the state is, getting in, I would expect that if I was the president and I was the minister for finance and, I would not allow all this, to just be managed when I'm not calling the shots. And how do I call the shots? Because the county government must run. I must find a way of creeping in and have my business done. And so I think we need to rethink about the city of Nairobi, the offering of the services and the income generated at the same time. And is that 60% of the GDP solely supposed to be under the one county, so that at least the county now has to give to the central government? Or are we supposed to have an agency managing, a bigger area, and then calculated in a way that the services are being offered by a local authority, like a county government, right. But at the same time, and having calculated that, but at the same time, the management of the city, where we are generating most of our funds, is being done by a more corporate body. It's not just one governor controlling 60% of our GDP, but we are having a corporate body that we have designed in the law that is managing that for us, but at the same time, there's a county government that is handling the services of the people of Nairobi.
We ran a feature over the weekend called Cartel Hall, and it was basically looking at how cartels in Nairobi have run down the city and how it's operated over time. We have so many cartels: land cartels, water cartels, transport cartels, parking cartels. I mean, different hands trying to get a part and a piece of Nairobi, as you're mentioning earlier. But how do we deal with this issue before we can get to the point of creating maybe a body to deal with the corporate side of the county or the capital city? When it comes to inefficiency of provision of services, corruption, ghost workers, these are things that have been with us for decades when it comes to managing Nairobi. How do we remedy a lot of these issues, at least in the short term, before you can look into legislation to deal with it in the long term?
Well, I think leadership, according to John Maxwell, exists to solve problems. And so we expect that leadership will emerge at this particular point where we actually come and say, we have a problem, and we state the problem. And we don't remain at the problem. We have a short look at the problem. Somebody else said, when Hugh has said, that when you have a problem, you don't spend all your time looking at the problem. Like in the Bible, we hear about, the giants. And there was these spies who had gone to the land. 10 of them took enough time to just compare themselves vis-a-vis the giants. And when they came back, they had given up. They had just said, in their eyes, we were looking like grasshoppers. I don't know how they were able to, to get that. But we were also like grasshoppers. I think the thing is, we take so much time to look at the cartels and investigate what cartels, but we need a management, the governance of the city of Nairobi to come down and deal, identify what problems we have, and then get a way out. And one of the ways out is to say, how are we going to, and we were so hopeful. Let me tell you, we were so hopeful recently when the governor came and said, we are stopping these issues about parking, and we have been able to generate this amount of money. We just said, yeah, a new broom has come. I think it's just a matter of commitment to deal with every issue, using management principles that I believe the deputy governor was bringing to the city. Whether we like it or not, this city will not be run by just politics and politicking. We need good managers. Actually, many people, and I would want to say this to our Excellency the Governor, many people gave him the vote because they thought finally we are going to get the political angle being handled, but we are going to get a manager who is going to sit down and tell us, this is the problem we have, this is how we are going to deal with it administratively. Put the structures in place, like what they were doing about the collection. Let me use that again. In the collection of the taxes. And then, when we handle that, then we say, in this transport crisis, this is our short-term plan, this is our long-term plan. Governor Sonko had even told us that, we are going to see very soon, we will remove, because of the jam.
The PSVs from CBD?
Yes, they are going to be removed, they are back. we are going to have the rubble strips and whatever removed from the superhighway. We are going to get footbridges. We have not seen any construction taking place so far.
Right.
And so that's the element of identifying every issue and having a strategic plan for every issue and making commitments like what we are saying about Kenyatta National Hospital. Tell us we are in this struggle. In 6 months' time, in this area, we have done this. Right. And address it publicly. Let the people know that they are together with you. Let me tell you, Kenyans can support you when you are out to manage their things. Michuki rules, when they came up, I walked personally in this city because I knew somebody is coming to sort out the problem.
Right.
Yes.
And we're seeing a lot of those changes taking effect and yielding fruit even now once he's long gone. Thank you so much, Mr. Ngu. This is all the time that we have. A governance analyst looking at the case of Nairobi and what we can do to improve the situation here in the capital city and the county by and large. Let's cross over now to West Pokot. Lois Wangoi is standing by. A first, definitely for West Pokot, but also for the country. The county government is giving bursary to high school students. Lois, what more can you tell us about this initiative?
Indeed, Vicky, a very interesting sort of conversation coming from here in the county of West Pokot. Just to note, for the longest time, West Pokot County was classified among those counties that had been marginalized when it came to issues of development and even in particular education. But on this particular day, this county led by the county governance here is seeking to sort of change this narrative. If the event that is being organized here today is anything to go by, a very interesting sort of giving bursary initiative going on, whereby the county government of West Pokot is offering bursaries to each and every student who's schooling here, that is each and every Pokot boy and girl child in secondary school, this being an initiative to see the matter of education just be up or on a rise. And it is one that is being graced or being led by the governor, Professor John Lonyangapu, of course being flanked by his Senator Pugisio and members of the county assembly. So very quickly we'll speak to him, to the governor from West Pokot, to try and understand what exactly informed this particular decision and how this is going to impact matters education. Thank you very much, Governor, for joining us. It is a very interesting conversation that you're launching on this day, whereby we have seen bursaries being given across the country, but then again to a number of pupils, not everyone. But here you're giving it to each and every Pokot and boy and girl child in secondary school. How are you going, first of all, to achieve that?
First of all, it is to every deserving child in West Pokot County, not Pokot community. All the people who reside here, we have many Kenyans of different ethnicity, but all the children are our children. So what we have done is that we have decided for the very first time to put premium to where it deserves most. We want all our children to study without being chased from school. We have today officially given out money to the tune of 200 million. We made sure that although some projects are essential, but we said we prioritize education. So we are giving to 21,000 students who are in Form 2, Form 3, and Form 4. Form 1s will get theirs in early May, after we have known which school they have settled. Colleges and universities will get from February, in the next 3 weeks.
And so we have seen this sort of initiative in previous county governments and of course even the national government. But what made your administration to decide that these will be given across without any sort of vetting? Initially it was given to disadvantaged or even parents or even students from poor backgrounds.
Poverty, as you know, West Pokot is classified as marginalized. That tells you the ability of our people who reside in this county to pay fees or even to raise money for themselves is quite low. So what we decided to do is to make sure that we affect every parent and every home by assisting them to educate their children so that they know that education is the key to everything. We are giving a minimum of 10,000 Kenya shillings to all the kids who are in the boarding secondary schools. And even the one that the president graciously decided to say they study for free, day school. We are giving each a grant of 5,000 shillings so that together with all the accumulation sum, they can use it to build, because we know very little money comes from the national government for infrastructure. So together as a county leadership, the Senate, the county assembly members and myself and the cabinet, we decided we touch our people, and it has become like a miracle. Everybody is now running to school. The Form 1 entry is very high because of this.
Asante, Governor. And very quickly, Senator Apogisho, just before we wind up, is this going to be a sort of motivation of sorts to ensure that the intake or the uptake in schools then goes high, because, you know, education was not well consumed here in the county of West Pokot, as in other counties which were not ranked as marginalized previously?
Actually, you'll be surprised that per capita there is an increase in the uptake of education here. The hindrance has been school fees and the poverty levels that have hit our people. Now the county government has made it easier for us to even audit their work. I tell you, it's made my work of oversight very easy, because we begin by auditing the manifesto, and then we have continuous audit, we have continuous oversight of what goes on, and that's going to make it easy for us to perform our job. And I want to tell you that West Pokot is going to move so fast because of the way that we have worked together with the county government, and the way that we move in the direction of being proactive in terms of oversight and audit. This is the first time that has been done in the history of West Pokot, that every child deserving is going to get something. And that way, we would expect that there will be no dropouts. And I'm appealing to the teachers who are head teachers that the habit of sending away children from school should stop, and they should just contact and speak to the parents nicely. And also the county government will try and keep the children in school. They spend too much time being out of school. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The county government leadership here in West Pokot this particular day speaking about this very interesting initiative where they are going to make sure they give bursaries to each and every student who's schooling in this particular county. This being their way of ensuring that West Pokot County goes in to see their level of education, on their numbers of children accessing education going up, even as they continue with their role of county leadership. For now, back to you in Nairobi, Vicky.
Thanks, Lois. Great to see West Pokot County taking such progressive steps in education and leading the way. Let's cross over now to Laban Cliff Ontario, standing by with the latest in business. Laban.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Yes, indeed. Over to matters of business and the economy at large. Of course, the government has been at pain to ensure that it meets its revenue collection target, where, of course, this has consistently been falling short of a target in the first 5 years of the financial year 2017-2018. That's piling pressure also on the Kenya Revenue Authority, whose departments are among the key ones the National Treasury is targeting in closing leakages. Now, this is according to the draft 2018 budget policy statement released by Treasury, which indicates that 2017-2018 GDP growth will be at 5.3%.
The tall stand of Times Towers may just be symbolic of the order the taxman has, a tall one. According to the National Treasury's 2018 Budget Policy Statement, BPS, revenues collection for 2017-2018 have consistently lagged behind targets due to the underperformance of the main revenue tax heads. This has in turn slowed down the implementation of the national budget. With the Kenya Revenue Authority having growing pressure, the government has opted to make some changes in policy alongside administrative reforms. Some of these changes include: 1. Rollout of the Integrated Customs Management Systems ICMS to seal loopholes at customs to prevent concealment, undervaluation, misdeclarations and falsifications of import documents. Secondly, implementation of the Regional Electronic Cargo Tracking RECTS to tackle transit diversion. The government also intends to enhance scanning activities to detect concealment. There are also plans to scale up ongoing and routine activities such as pre-verification of conformity, PVOC, benchmarking and auctions. The state also intends to have data matching and use of third-party data to enhance compliance by integration of iTax with IFMIS. Then there's the expansion of the tax base by targeting the informal sector, betting, lotteries and gaming, pursue non-filers, and increase focus on taxation of international transactions and transfer pricing. Treasury also seeks to enhance investigations, intelligence capacity and KRA capacity to support revenue collection. The Treasury has also reduced the target set for revenue collection from 1.704 trillion shillings to 1.643 trillion, which is a change of 61.4 billion shillings. However, expenditure and net lending is expected to rise from the 2.299 trillion shillings stipulated in the budget up to 2.323 trillion. As the state seeks to cut down its costs, one key component is wages, which are to reduce by 8.2 billion shillings, which is from 409.2 billion to 401 billion shillings. Treasury seeks to reduce the amount of development funds borrowed locally from 373.4 billion shillings to 327.4 billion. However, it is looking to increase foreign borrowing for development projects by 12.8 billion shillings. These and other changes in the budget plans are meant to support the 5.3% estimation in gross domestic product growth for the 2017-2018 financial year.
So a lot more numbers there, and yes, indeed, more numbers, especially after the Monetary Policy Committee meeting yesterday, where the central bank maintained the CBR rate at 10%. That's citing increased optimism for growth prospects in the economy, coupled with inflation expectations that are well within the government target range. Now, the MPC, to the MPC, the economy is expected to pick up strongly in 2018, supported by a stable macroeconomic environment, a resurgent private sector, recovery in the agricultural sector, and sustained public investments in infrastructure. Now, inflation last month dropped to 4.5%. That's from 4.7% recorded in November. Now, the MPC is of the opinion that the banking sector remains stable and resilient, though it is anticipating a decline in profitability. Now, external factors that the committee is keenly looking at that could affect the local economy include Brexit and happenings in the Donald Trump-led U.S. economy. We'll come back to that briefly and just see how that is impacting on the global affairs. But Uganda will be Jambo Jet's first destination outside Kenya's. That's following an announcement earlier yesterday that it will begin 2 daily direct flights from Nairobi to Entebbe. That's on the 15th of February. The Kenya Airways subsidiary was granted approval to fly to Eastern African Community member states. That was in May 2016. That's following an intervention by the Kenyan government. Now, the airline CEO confirmed the planned flights and said that it will boost business and tourism ties between the two countries. Now, Jambo Jet will have 2 flights from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to Entebbe International Airport. Now, a one-way ticket will cost you about 11,330 shillings, but it is not clear if the airline will maintain this ticket fare. That's after the launch phase in February. And a similar flight on Jambo's owner, that's KQ, that's around the same date, will be about 32,000 shillings. Now, this comes as the African Union is this week set to chair an Open Skies agreement to encourage countries to scrap landing taxes for African airlines to make it cheaper for intra-Africa travel. Now, Jambo also hopes to cash in on the East African Single Tourist Visa Agreement, where tourists pay for one visa that's granting them access to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda and Burundi. Now, Jambo Jet also recently announced direct flights to Algeria. That's beginning 14th of February. Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, take this. Still on tourism, the board of directors of Sarov Hotels has appointed Jimmy Karaoke as the new group managing director. That's replacing J.S. Vora, who was killed in a road accident last year. Karaoke has more than 20 years experience in the hotel industry and is also the current chairman of the Kenya Tourism Board. His appointment takes effect immediately. So going back to the economy and just looking at how that especially impacts on the international scene. Now, the world business and political leaders will be meeting in Davos this week for the 50th World Economic Forum. That's for 2018. And now, top on the agenda is issues to do with tackling global risks that have impacted on the investment climate. Now, security has been beefed up around Davos in Switzerland, with the U.S. President Donald Trump expected to attend WEF 18. Now, his president... taking place right here in Nairobi. Also, we'll be keeping you updated with the latest on that front. Victoria, the World Economic Forum, of course, a lot more has been said about it, that, other than just being a talk show, that, solid discussions will take place, especially with the world and relating to business.
Absolutely. Whenever we have these high-level plenary kinds of meetings, the question is, what's the effect on the ground? Very important question raised there. Thank you so much for the update, Laban, on business. And of course, we'll have much more in the 1 o'clock hour. We are expecting to hear from Nandi Hills MP, the ousted chairman of the Parliamentary Labour Committee. He'll be speaking along with other Jubilee MPs who've been ousted from their positions in various parliamentary committees. This also coming after the majority leader, Aden Duale, spoke against those who seek to undermine the rank and file in Jubilee. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Stay with us, taking a short break, but we'll be back. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. Now today, Jubilee MPs who were accused of going against the rank and file in the ruling party would learn their fate in various parliamentary committees. One such individual was a Nandi Hills MP, Alfred Kater, who was ousted as chair of the Labour Committee. He is addressing the press right now from Parliament. Let's listen in.
We sit in a committee not because we are from one party. We are from different political parties. There are those members who are independent, and they should have a say, because that is the democratic space that was given to us after the new constitutional dispensation. It is clear in our minds, because we are in our right senses, that Parliament has been turned out to be an annex of the executive. I remember the last week meeting, and I have to talk about this now, because I have a dosha of what happened in Parliament, in the State House last week. The Honourable Speaker, who is meant to be independent, attended the State House meeting. The clerks of National Assembly attended the State House meeting. And that is the reason why the clerks could not allow us to use the standing order as well and the Constitution to preside over the purported vote of no confidence. When we wanted to go the secret balloting way, which is provided for in the Constitution, they were against it. And they were not clear on which standing order they were raising. I want to say it is wrong, it is immoral, and we will not allow that. We are not going to relent. We are still the chairs of our specific committees, because the purported vote of no confidence did not happen. They didn't follow the law. It was wrong. Even the grounds they were raising or leveling against our leadership were all unconstitutional. You can't say that you are moving a vote of no confidence to someone because it does not balance. I can't balance as Keter. There is no way Labour Committee can balance Kenya. There was only room for a chairperson and a vice chair. So there is no way that the four committees could balance Kenya. It is unfortunate, because we are allowing the same cartels we talked about. And I have to insist on this, that I know the reason why they wanted us to come out of our offices as chairs and vice chairs, because the cartels are in control. And it is very unfortunate that they are using now the presidency as an institution to coronate the puppets to run the specific committees, so that they have their way in terms of looting national resources in various departments that all these committees were meant to oversight. It is very unfortunate that there is a parliament that should be doing the role of parliament that is provided for in Article 96 of the Constitution. Oversight. And Parliament operates well or more. The strength of Parliament is in the committees. Most business are done at the level of committees. So if they have control over committees, then they are in control of Parliament. They want to have their puppets to control the leadership of the committees. It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. It is not about us losing. I know it's a debate that, Honorable Keter, Honorable Tiren, Honorable Kangogo, Honorable Kakuya, they lost. There is nobody losing. The people who are losing are the people of Kenya, who sacrifice on a daily basis to ensure that we have a parliament through taxation. They are heavily taxed in all the things they do, all the business that they do. When they are commuting from point A to B, the fuels have a levy. When they buy products from the supermarkets and the kiosks, there is money that is going for taxation. So Kenyans who are sacrificing to ensure that we have a parliament to oversight the executive, to check the excesses of the executive, now we lose because they are maintaining us with a lot of money. If you see the budget every year that goes to Parliament, something close to 28 billion or so every year, that we are meant to use it to oversight and do legislations so that Kenyans can have a better life. It is sad that even the presidency, when Kenyans are expecting a lot from them to fix their cabinet, to ensure that they have, there is service delivery in government, now they are busy in trying to ensure that Keteri is not a chairman of labor and social welfare. They went straight to State House. And it is good that we have this doja, that even the Speaker, Justin Muturi, was in State House. The Honorable Duale, the Honorable Washali, and the entire Jubilee members of the 4 committees that I've mentioned. It's very unfair. We expected the Speaker to be neutral because he's a referee. The clerks to work independently. And I have to state that 2 weeks ago, we were fighting to remain as members of Liaison Committee. When we were elected last month in December, we were automatic members to Liaison Committee because the membership of Liaison Committee are all chairs of different departmental committees. And the chair of the Liaison Committee is the Deputy Speaker. And the Vice Chair is the Vice Chair to the Speaker's panel. So we were automatic members of Liaison Committee, but there was a purported memo that the 3 of our names, myself, Honorable Tiren, and Honorable James Kaguya, were missing in a memo. When we went to the clerk's office, they tried saying there is some law, saying we were de-whipped, and we were not members, and there was a communication by the Speaker. When we asked them to provide, it is like there was an oversight. But it was a calculated way to ensure that we are not part of the Liaison Committee. We were to have an induction in the Liaison Committee, but they postponed it because they wanted to remove us so that by the time they go sit in Mombasa or wherever to do the induction, we are no longer members of Liaison Committee. They said that there was a communication by the Speaker. We proved to them that they were wrong. There was no communication. The only thing that the Speaker did was to notify us after the head of the cartels, Honorable Washali, had purported to have de-whipped us, and he communicated the same to the Speaker. The Speaker had to notify us that your party, Jubilee Party, has an intention of de-whipping you, because they have no power. There is a due process. Every member whose party feels that they should be de-whipped, there is a way that is provided for in the Constitution and the standing orders. You must be given there must be a due process that you must go through. The right to be heard is both in the Constitution and in the standing orders. The right of fair administrative action is provided for in the Constitution and in the standing orders. We were not given the right to be heard. So there was no way they de-whipped us. And the communication by the Speaker was to notify us that the party is having an intention, and I repeat, we are not lawyers, but this is basic law. That there was an intention to remove us from the party as members. We went to court and we sought orders, stay orders, to remain as members and chairs. And we succeeded.
And speaking earlier, the National Assembly leader of Majority, Aden Duale, defended Jubilee MP's move to oust rebel Jubilee members of Parliament from House Committee leadership. Now, the ruling party ejected Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter, who we just heard from, Silas Tiren MP Moiben, David Kangongo Bowen MP for Marakwet East, and Alex Kosgei, the MP for Mgwen, from House committees after contesting against President Kenyatta's preferred nominees.
Tindred, Honorable Meli as the chair of education, and and the Honorable Serem Valdai as the Vice Chair in Trade. In Uasin-Gishu, where Honorable Tiren comes from, the 2 slots for that has been taken over by Honorable Boss Sholei as the Chair of Implementation and Honorable Mishra of Keses constituency as the Vice Chair in Health Committee. The same for Nairobi. Nairobi got a chair and a vice chair, a chair to Honorable Commander in the Committee of Cohesion, and Honorable Wahenya, I think in ICT, or Finance Committee, one of them. So it's a party that thinks about inclusivity. And we will not allow, and this goes to Honorable Alfred Keter, we will not allow the shenanigans of last parliament. We will maintain discipline, we will maintain cohesiveness, we will maintain inclusivity in everything that our party does under the able leadership of Uhuru Kenyatta. And there is nothing. People talk about Kenya, for instance. Kenya, if you read the Kenyan...
And to another story making headlines today, security was heightened at the main entrance of the Kenyatta National Hospital as activists and staff of KNH clashed over allegations of sexual assault of patients at the facility. Morgue attendants, backed by other members of KNH staff, held demonstrations to protest against claims made about a number of them assaulting patients. On the other hand, activists allied to the Health Empowerment Network held demos to protest the lack of security for pregnant mothers in the hospital. Brenda Wanga has been following this standoff for the last couple of hours. Brenda, bring us up to speed. What's happening now?
Well, indeed, Victoria, it has been quite a busy morning here at the Kenyatta National Hospital. A tension-filled one for that matter, when members of the public, human rights activists, women rights groups had organized a march protesting the incidents that have been reported, at least through the social media, of having taken place here at the facility. Incidents where mothers who have been seeking maternity services from this facility have claimed that they have been physically and sexually assaulted by hospital staff, especially morgue attendants. This assault happening at around 3 a.m. almost every other night. So this protest had been planned. They marched from Freedom Corner on Uhuru Park, went to Ministry of Health headquarters, and eventually their final port of call was here at the Kenyatta National Hospital. But when they arrived here, they were met with a group that was countering this protest, a group made up of morgue attendants and beefed up by staff from the Kenyatta National Hospitals who were saying that these allegations that have come to the fore are not true and that they are being unfairly targeted, since no one has officially and formally reported that they have been assaulted by the hospital staff. This stand has also been taken by the management of the hospital since this story broke last year. So we were treated to this sense where one group is saying one thing, the other one is saying another thing. They had intended to, the protesters had intended to present a petition to the management of the hospital, but the management did not turn up at the gate. Instead, they did give that protest, that petition to members of the communications team at the Kenyatta National Hospital. But Vicky, just beyond the factor of safety for the mothers who seek services here, the protesters are also calling for improved services overall at the Kenyatta National Hospital. They are calling for better equipment, more staff at the hospital. They are also asking the government and the county government of Nairobi particularly to ensure that the health facilities within the county are working to their capacity to make sure that the people who come at the KNH, the numbers that actually come to the KNH to seek simple services are reduced, that these services can be given to the members of the public at other points, just to make sure that the services that are rendered here at the KNH are sufficient for those who need them. After all, they say that KNH really should be a referral hospital, Vicky. So that has been what has been happening here at the KNH. The hospital representative, after receiving that petition, saying that they will take it to the management, who hopefully will act on their grievances. Vicky?
All right, thanks for that update, Brenda. And of course, we'll be following this group Health Empowerment Network and the channels of engagement they'll be using to have their grievances addressed. Now, elsewhere, pupils of Lopelekwa Primary School in Chepareria Ward, West Pokot County, are yet to reap the benefits of the free laptops disbursed to schools by the government. The main impediment is lack of classrooms, and the few they have are not habitable.
Lopelekwa Primary School in Chepareria Ward, the school that has a population of 150 students, does not have a lot to work with in terms of amenities.
So kwa shule tuko walimu wawili, mimi na deputy, hakuna walimu wengine, na ni standard 1 up to standard 7 science.
Though established in 2008, the school still offers classes up until class 7. The students are forced to share classes whose walls are dilapidated.
Madarasa ni matatu. Tuna 3 classrooms. Ngaje hii mbili ndio tumeanza sasa hizi. So tuna share classes.
Some students have to contend with attending class while sitting on the earth floors, as the whole school only has 20 desks.
Na tulipatiwa laptops 36. Inatosha watoto kwa sababu enrollment walilete kulingana na enrollment. Na mimi na huyo deputy wangu tumekuwa trained kufundisha. Lakini kwa sababu ya fumbi madarasa.
8, 9, 10. According to the head teacher, the school has never received any assistance from the area CDF, and parents are forced to pay for extra teachers. While visiting the school, West Pokot Governor John Lonyangapuo asked area MPs to ensure there is equal distribution of funds in all schools in the region.
Tujenge permanent classrooms. Ziwe kwa national government, iwe NGO, iwe niyo ya CDF waje maneno ya siasa. Na wajenge shule, wazo shule si ya profesa, shule ni ya watu.
So mchumbe hapo kwa South, osha mkono yako, hakikisha mashule imepata haki yao. Usiwe na upendeleo, na hivyo mjumbe asikora. Usipendelee shule zingine ukawacha zingine. Mjumbe akapenguria, usilale. Hakikisha kila shule inapata haki yake. Wakipata mwaka huu, hii shule zingine ikumbuke ile mwaka ingine.
Gladys Gashanje, NTV.
And to Kajiado County, where Governor Joseph Olelenku directed Kajiado East administrators to ensure Kitengela town is clean after the public complained a number of times about the standards of cleanliness in the town. Locals also claimed that garbage remains uncollected for days as there are no available trucks to pick it up.
For some months, Kitengela town has been an eyesore characterized by heaps of garbage within business and residential areas. Most affected areas include the only open-air market Kiangombe and Norkopir estate within the township. While touring the dirty yet populous Kitengela town, Kajiado governor acknowledged the problem and its effect on business.
Tunataka kutengeneza mazingira ya watu kufanya biashara, lakini pia mali ikae kama inapasa kukua. Lakini tunashukuru kwa sababu tunaweka amani.
Governor Lenku promises residents an overall cleanup of the town to provide a better environment for business. Solid waste management has been a thorny issue all over the major towns in Kajiado.
Tumelaunch cleanups kadhaa za NYS na nafikiri bado wako upande hii ya Olost Consholinge. In the meantime, tutawapata upande ya Kitengela ward na tutaweza kusafisha hii mji.
Days after Governor Lenku took over the county leadership in September last year, he promised to relocate the Ngong Dam site as one of his 100 days in office flagship project. But that remains undone 6 months into office. Heli Magongo, NTV.
And to some tragic news for the music world, and fans of the legendary South African jazz musician Hugh Masekela has died at 78. President Jacob Zuma says the nation was mourning a man who kept the torch of freedom alive. His family says he passed peacefully at his home in Johannesburg after suffering from prostate cancer for almost a decade. Now, the trumpeter had an outstanding career spanning nearly 50 years and was a famous Pan-Africanist who performed in Nairobi several times over the years. Hugh spoke to NTV's Larry Mado in August 2016. Take a look.
We even don't know that we live in artificial borders. You know what I mean? That these borders that we live in were created in 1886. And we fight each other over
these borders.
And
it restricts some Africans from going across to other countries because of these borders.
Yeah, that were not created by Africans, you know. So I think my interest has become more I think what we have lost is our heritage. I've just formed a heritage foundation to try and help. I mean, like our children today, many of them can't even speak the mother tongue.
True.
You know what I mean? And the parents won't let them speak that because they must speak English. Yes, but il faut parler français, parce que, you know. And como está, parla portugués, you know. And you know, so like when people come to Africa, they don't come to see us. They come to see the animals, and they come to see the geographical size because we are invisible. We are bad imitations of the people who oppressed us. And yet there is no richer society in the world like Africans internationally. We just like our diversity. And we created design, architecture, literature, you know, but we don't even know. I mean, here in Kenya, you can ask people, when did Kenya start? They probably say, well,
1963 when we got independence.
So, I mean, we're living in an age where, like, if we don't do something about heritage restoration, 20 years from now, your children, when they ask them who they are, they're going to say, they say we used to be Africans long ago. Don't laugh, man, it's sad.
Wow.
Wow, he was so spirited in that interview. That's probably the least I've ever heard Larry Mado speak during an interview, but a beautiful soul we have lost. He will be missed. Now, NTV's Layla Mohammed, who is currently on an exchange program at a local TV station in Wisconsin in the U.S., has been reporting on the anniversary of President Trump's inauguration. Here are some of the most interesting things she's learned.
From reporting in Kenya to Washington, D.C., and now the Dairyland of Wisconsin, Layla Mohammed got the opportunity to see how politics work in America. While working as a reporter in Nairobi, she took a special interest in President Donald Trump and discovered quickly, once she arrived, how different her president and ours communicate on social media.
It's been interesting to just see how a president can choose to communicate directly to his audiences without necessarily using the official systems.
It's no surprise President Trump likes to communicate on Twitter, and while it's a system used internationally, she also learned many people want to talk politics, but not necessarily on camera.
They're not comfortable to express their views, which is interesting for me because we know America as the land of the free, those who can express themselves in any way, shape, or form.
During her time working at 27 News, Mohammed was able to take to the streets of Madison to talk to voters and soon realized the similarities all reporters face with the job.
The same challenges of walking up to people and introducing yourselves. Some will ignore you and walk away. Some will take time to listen. And even the person who you thought would never even give you a listening ear ends up giving you the best interview of your life.
Mohammed says most voters want more input from their government, but end up disappointed. And coming to a new country had its own challenges, but luckily some of those fears went away.
There have been so many stories about how people in hijab are treated in this country. So that was one of my biggest fears. But I've received nothing but love and warmth.
before going to sport, Layla Mohammed doing us proud in Wisconsin, which happens to be very cold this time of year, but she's one of the brilliant minds in the NTV newsroom. Now to sports, Warode Kiru with the very latest.
Yes, Victoria, and also quite lovely to see Layla, and she's been talking about how cold it is. Glad to see that she's having quite some good time there. And let's get sporty on NTV at 1. Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa has assured stakeholders in Kenyan football that his federation is doing all it can to ensure that the game is played despite the withdrawal of SportPesa as sponsors and SuperSport as broadcast partners.
It's a tough time, especially because I'm well informed that the KPL has not secured a broadcaster, and therefore there's a gap in funding as has been created since last year. SportPesa is not there. My message is that we are doing everything. We shall do everything as FKF to ensure that the game is played. Not only that the game is played, but the player does not lose. And that's what our job is. We have sensitized government to understand that it means losing jobs. Loss of funds means loss of jobs. Not only for the 16 clubs, but for the NSL, the Division 1 and the Division 2. And therefore, we cannot play around with jobs for our youth. So that's why we're going every day and pushing very hard to make sure that this gap is understood and it's covered. I am pretty sure that very soon you'll start seeing good news.
And I was at that press conference, and Nick Mwendwa is a man who is under a lot of immense pressure because it's not going well in the footballing world. And also not going well in cricket, and the national under-19 cricket team baptism of fire at the under-19 World Cup continued as once again they wrote themselves into the record books for all the wrong reasons. A dominant batting performance from Sri Lanka built around a staggering